is like the more enduring term that should be used, if anything, instead of using nigga as we
Yeah,
do. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
it's because it has a better like connotation.
Yeah, honestly.
It's funny because
But
I feel like it's kind of the opposite. Like we've always seen it as the opposite.
I agree. I agree. But education, bro,
Yeah,
it provides you wondrous things. Um, but shit, man. Um, should we get into it?
let's get into it.
Let's fucking get into it. So welcome to our very first episode of the Old Head Young Shoulders podcast. I'm Jalen Charles. This is my great friend Sam Stovall. Um,
What's happening?
I've known this man for sheesh. How long have we known each other, bro?
Oh man, bro.
Over a
Since like
decade for sure.
yeah,
Um,
since like the end of middle school, like starting high school.
yeah, bro. First time we met, I honestly never would have guessed that me would have been friends. Not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
When was the first time we met, bro? I don't even
Bro,
know.
we met at that it was the first like feeder tournament we had for Creek
Okay.
and was that BCC, I think.
Oh,
And
when Wilkins was coaching us,
yeah, when ugly ass bum ass Wilkins was
bro.
coaching us and BT, bro, like me and BT showed up. Our team was ass. It was me, you, and BT, but me and Brendan didn't know you.
Yeah, yeah.
So we honestly thought it was just about to be us. Like we're riding together. Let's run it. First game, I think within like the first, bro, probably 7 minutes of that game, I realized I was like, oh, okay. This man,
Hooper on the
this
team.
man, he's like that.
Hell
So
yeah.
I think that created, like the want to like have a conversation at least.
For
Cause
sure.
I remember you showed up with the headband. It was like the multicolored headband. I
Yeah.
never seen nobody rock that before, and I was like, who is this?
It's like, oh, here we
I was like, yo,
go.
this clown, God. We have like this is Creek. This is what we do at
Yeah.
Creek. Okay, here we go.
Then we
Uh,
ended up being kind of nice though.
honestly, bro, but it
At
was
least in
because
that
me and
summer
you
team.
and Brendan. It was
Yeah,
because
for
me and you and Brendan, bro.
yeah.
Like, let's not sugarcoat it.
Yeah, that's for
if
sure.
if it wasn't us, like, yeah, um, that's crazy. But so fast forward, here we are today. It's been a journey for both of us, and as time goes on, the audience will definitely learn more about us as people. Um, but to begin with, we would like to just, go ahead and tell you guys our why for doing this in the first place. I feel like normally with a first podcast episode, you might not get this interaction, this synopsis. I listen to millions, like, I listen to so many podcasts, and I can't remember this being on the first episode, but, just making it as genuine and authentic to ourselves. Um, so, Sam, if you want to go ahead and get in your why, I feel like I've been talking for 8 fucking minutes. So,
Yeah,
go
for
ahead and
sure.
introduce yourself, bro.
No, man, I appreciate the intro, man, and that's the great thing about sports is it brings
Yeah.
people together. So, um, yeah, man, same. Like I just have I've always listened to podcasts and enjoyed it, and always kind of had the desire to do this, but never found the time or, the people to do it with, and so it's cool, man. It just really I like having a space where we can talk about these things because in most parts of our lives or at work or whatever or with even people that are important to you, you don't talk about important stuff, and
Yeah.
this kind of gives us a space to do that and share our thoughts on things. And ultimately, um, I know I'm gonna enjoy doing this. Like I've already enjoyed the work that we've put into it, and just sitting here and having these conversations, is fun for me. And so I hope that people will listen. And I think we have interesting opinions and takes. And um, but yeah, man, like when I was creating our Facebook page, I was thinking about like what our bio should be and what our message should be. And it's kind of just like, man, just create a space where we could talk about things that we want to talk about or might not be easy to talk about, and people can listen and gain different insights that they may not have heard. And the best we can do is give people our knowledge and try and better themselves.
Yeah.
Just make the world a better place ultimately.
Yeah, for sure, man. Um, that definitely is a big reason for me too, like you said right there, making the world a better place. Obviously, one man can't do it.
Yeah,
Two
we can
man
try.
can't do it. But I think one piece we talked about also is just you and I both love just to educate ourselves
Yeah,
with everything. Like, there's no limitations to what we want to learn about. And I think it's also really cool to have a space to provide that education to other people. Because as you said, like gaining that different perspective, uh, people gain different ideas for themselves. It creates a bigger conversation. And I
yeah,
think that's something I hope we're able to accomplish, is creating a stage for um, that bigger conversation to aspire. And I have a feeling, even this first conversation that we're going to talk about today, can potentially go there. And I also have always wanted to do this because I needed an outlet for myself for these conversations and topics as well.
yeah.
Um,
Period.
because of how, just I have grown up and stuff. I have like I've never just like necessarily had like a space to, kind of just let it out, but like all my
Yeah,
thoughts.
yeah,
And because people are sensitive
yeah,
and not everybody, you know, can talk about everything, so it leaves you in this space of being stuck inside your mind a lot. Um, so that's one of my main reasons for being here. It's the change, it's the desire, the the urgency, the
yeah.
yearning for conversation, all of it, And so I'm really glad we're here. And truthfully, I don't think I would have wanted to do it with anybody else. At
Man,
first, I was going to do it by myself,
yeah,
100%. I actually recorded 3 episodes by myself before
yeah.
you and I even have the conversation. So,
Well, I appreciate that, bro. I mean, I feel the same way, honestly. I feel like, man, we just get each other and it's just easy for us to talk about stuff. And,
yeah,
you know, we also can give each other, arguments. We might disagree with each other, but it's not going to, change the conversation. So,
yeah, because the respect level is there. And I think,
mhm.
and I think also one of the things that like kept me from doing a podcast in the beginning too was um people were trying to tell me like how I needed to show up to do this podcast, like to do a podcast, like I couldn't just show up as Jalen and have a successful podcast because like I'm too monotone. Things like that. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't anything about like my intelligence. It was more like the personality side of things.
yeah,
And like I kind of understood it, I guess. Like you know me very well. I am very calm and monotone and chill, relaxed. Like I'm not very like exuberant, anything like that. But I think um like this space allows us to just be myself, bro. Like I I got over that shit. Like
yeah,
no one can tell me how I have to show up for this because if I don't show up for this as myself, there's definitely not a chance it's going to be as successful because I'm nothing is gonna be genuine.
Yeah,
Nothing's gonna be authentic.
right.
Everything will have to be scripted. Like, no, bro,
And that's
get
part
out
of
of
the
here.
reason that we're doing it. It's like just to be ourselves, you know?
Exactly, just
So
to exist,
yeah,
exist. Because there aren't a lot of places where you can exist. Like, even if, sometimes living with other people, bro, like, you can't always just exist as you
yeah,
through and through.
yeah, it's
You really
true.
can't. Um, but shit, man. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this topic today, though, for real.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, this is a good one.
it is. So today we wanna talk about the use of the N-word in America. Uh, and that's based on like what we see it as, not scolding anybody or the culture or anything. And just giving some history to it as well. I think there's a lot of controversy behind it versus how black people feel we use it with each other. Um, how white people are using it, but
Yeah.
use the argument of music um, as an excuse. What the word actually means to us as people and how we've tried to transform it into an endearment instead of a negative connotation.
Hmm.
Just many levels to it. Um, so, you know, when I brought this up to Sam, I honestly wasn't sure how he would feel about it. So like honestly, bro, before like I get into the history, I want to know like what captivated you to indulge in this conversation with me.
Mm. I mean, honestly, I thought it was a good topic when you told me. I didn't really know like how deep it was gonna go, you know? So I kind of just figured like, all right, well, we'll go learn about slaves, you know, stuff
Right,
like that.
right.
And kind of how you started with what the word means, has meant to me, like growing up, it was never really a big part of my life. It was just something, honestly, it was a word that I felt almost like I had to use to fit
Mm,
in with like certain with certain friends that I hung out
right.
with.
Uh,
Yeah. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, I was really intrigued when I started doing a little bit more research, and we'll get into that later, but I think it's like I was slightly skeptical, but not, I wasn't questioning it. I was just curious where it was gonna go.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. Um, I know, so what originally made me bring up this topic was this book. It's called The N-Word, and obviously, if you haven't heard of it, I'm gonna go ahead and plug it right
Yeah, you're
now.
gonna have to send that to me.
Go ahead and run this for all education purposes. But this book definitely, is the reason why I even wanted to talk about this. For that reason, bro, like I didn't understand the depths of it either. For the
Yeah.
same reason, like, we know about slavery, we've done our own black education on our own, but there's always missing pieces
Hmm.
to our education, our history. So you always have to look in so many different places for the answers that you hope to seek or discover, right?
Yeah.
And this book provided that for me through and through. So like just to get into a little bit of the history, like to your point, so um, Niger, Latin-based word nigger for the color black. That is where nigger stems from, even in America, with the slaves coming over to British America. Slavery didn't actually start until like the 1660s. And that's when the word technically became the derogatory term. Now it had the face value of this is what a nigger is. You're a
Like when
slave.
slavery started.
Yeah,
So before it was just this means the color black, essentially.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
but even with that, um, so like in like right before the 1600s, like the late 1570s, going like the 1580s. We were when we were first coming over here, because of our skin color, we were deemed as an infection of inhabitants in America.
Damn.
So that's where the inferiority immediately began,
Mm.
because we were looked at as a disease, basically,
Yeah,
by
yeah.
people that had a skin disease.
Right.
And so we were already treated um, inferior based on our pigmentation. But the derogatory use of the word didn't become so effective until slavery actually started in the 1660s.
Mm.
And then we moved down the line, bro, like 1700s. When you get into like the trade time, um, America started profiting um, off of the word nigger. So, you know, products were sold as nigger products like tobacco, um, tea, things like that. It started becoming a word in their vocabulary to describe their own struggle between white people. So they
That's
would tell themselves, um, like someone out niggered me, or like I'm out niggered. And um,
crazy.
so like the use of the word was established by white America, obviously, that's not a secret.
Hmm.
But the growth of the word, the progression, the dehumanization, the evilness of it,
Hmm.
that was rapidly made into effect by white America because of how vastly they were using the word.
Yeah.
Um, they were using it in every aspect of the word, and then you get into even like the Jigaboo era, right? Like the black character.
Yeah.
Who is a black man to America? How do we view that, right? So dark skin, big lips, the darky era, and in this era, it goes back to the commodity. They were making piggy banks out of it. Um, it was, pure theater entertainment back then. And then you have authors started writing books. Um, Huckleberry Finn,
Yeah.
it's a, everybody knows what Huckleberry
Drop
Finn is.
N
If
bomb
you
like
don't,
crazy.
if you don't know what Huckleberry Finn is, I don't know where the fuck you have been. This is honestly like, I don't know where you've been. But like the N word was used 215 times in that book, bro, and like that was one of the first things that kind of depicted the words as actually being seen as evil, even to white America. And this was like in the 1800s. Um, is like in that time period is when these like books were written. But one thing I found very interesting is black characters that were created, right?
Hmm.
And one, for example, is like Uncle Remus. Now,
Oh
who
yeah.
Uncle Remus, right? Okay. Now, to like any younger person that may see this, or someone who doesn't know who Uncle Remus is, do your research. But a good example that I feel like most people will understand is like who Uncle Ruckus is in Boondocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very similar characters, obviously depicted in different ways because of the times that we live in.
Yeah.
So, like back in the 1800s, Uncle Remus was, that person who um, loved white people, gave to his master, but looked at other blacks in a negative way.
Yeah.
Still
Just
shunned
like in
the
Django, just
field.
like
It,
Samuel L.
exactly, bro. Like the
Yeah.
field nigga versus the house nigga.
Yeah.
And that's how authors depicted the nigger in all of their stories. It's either the loving slave master, I care for all my white people,
Yeah.
and if any black person is not abiding by these same rules, I look at you as this, right?
Right.
And the this is just the poor nigger, um the rebellion,
Yeah.
and so
And it's
those
like
were
you're
the only
only that. You're only like it's either you're doing exactly what the white people want you to do, or you're
Yeah,
that. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
there's no in between.
Exactly. And so, and one of like the craziest eye-opening things to me that was said is during this time is that, um, and this related to, you know, the depth of like father-son relationship in the black community.
Mm,
But like one thing this author made a point about is like back in this time, the word nigger became so powerless. Like it made us so powerless. That's what I'm
hmm.
saying. To the point, like white people literally owned the word, owned it.
Yeah, yeah,
During slavery, like they were able to create three laws based on the growth of the African American population and the fear of insurgents in America. That was law for slavery. That's one of the main reasons why slavery was created in the first place.
yeah,
Obviously, the growth of like tobacco, cotton fields, we need someone to maintain these fields. Well, the whites were the majority at the time. They enslave us.
yeah.
Three, it was law to maim, torture, and kill slaves. And these are everything that we were niggers as. So, you know, fast forward to what I'm talking about now. A black man is with his son walking down the street, 1800s, early 1900s, whatever you want to call it. White man comes up to him, nigger this, nigger that. Black man doesn't do anything. You see it on his face. He's defeated.
Yeah.
He's powerless.
Just
So
with
now the
one
son
word.
is looking at his dad like, well, aren't you going to do something? Aren't you going to protect me? Stand up for yourself? And that little instance, like, speaks so much volume as to how defeating it is to your soul,
For
to
sure.
your self esteem,
And like
to
the
how you
kid,
can even.
yeah, how like imagine being the kid and seeing that. It's like dang, like just that's all it took. That
Oh,
was
so
all it took.
yeah, so it's like you lose respect for your father now.
Right.
So this word constantly taking power away, stripping power away. And it didn't even have to be. The crazy thing about it is, you know, the violence comes with it, right?
Mm. Yeah.
But even if what I believe, bro, even without the violence, the word would have still been just as violent as the actual killings. It it was the nuisance
Yeah.
to the hangings.
Right.
If the word nigger never existed in history the way that it did, I feel like that would have changed a lot. That might be very naive for me to say,
No, I
but
agree with you.
I don't know. It's
It
just
just it
very
just automatically it just automatically cast black people into a certain light, you know,
exactly
with one word. And
100%.
like who knows, they may have came up with a different word,
Yeah,
but like whatever it is, like like you were saying, they used it for everything and it just put such an image and a negative connotation of it, and it ended up being only associated with black people.
yeah,
And that's it. Even though that wasn't even like its meaning necessarily.
yeah, exactly. And um, I kind of lost my train of thought, bro. I just like the more we talk about this, so much, you know, just starts to come into my head. Um, but you know, kind of moving along in the history as well. So the word nigger started to be kind of compared to the essence of like the gays and queers in this time as well.
Mm,
Because you know, gay people in this time they didn't necessarily like being called queers, and this like is kind of like the beginning of the transformation, right, of the word. So, um, queers decided to embrace the word and make it their own.
okay.
And that's essentially, what we have tried to do with
Yeah.
Nipman. But the difference is queer has a completely different definition than homosexual. There's a separation between the two.
Oh,
There's
okay.
still a whole nother definition of queer,
Yeah.
right? Which means like marry. Which means odd.
Hmm.
And then there's gay, which means marry.
Yeah, right.
Nigga, bro, like, even though nigger means black in the Latin language, the actual word nigger and the usage of it, Nigger, has ever only meant one thing in America.
Yeah. Yeah. No one's using it to describe anything other than a black person.
Anything other.
That's for sure.
Unless it's, unless we get into the whole, like, nigger hair tobacco
Yeah.
ideology.
Which was what, the 1800s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, that was like 1700, 1800. So it's
Yeah.
like, unless we're talking about that, the commodity, but even that, bro, like, the
You
word
know what's
nigger being used as a commodity is completely outrageous.
it is. You know what's crazy though to me, like I was just thinking about that is like it almost seems like it got more racist as time went on. Like it almost seems like they were kind of just casually using it at first, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, hey, there's a nigger right there, like, and that's just what a black person was. But it almost seems like it just kept getting more racist, bro, as,
Bro,
as like time went on.
it literally became livelihood.
Yeah,
Literally became livelihood.
yeah, for real.
And like to your point, that's how it became more racist.
Yeah,
Like when you turn a word into a commodity in entertainment, what do you expect? What did they expect was gonna happen?
right. Like people are gonna start joking about it and not taking it seriously.
Yeah,
Like
like,
now,
oh,
now black
haha.
people are just a joke. Yeah,
Like that's all we are. We're a joke. We're disgusting.
for sure.
We can't be taken serious. We have no power. We're inferior. And bro, like even to this point, like with TV, um, like one of the most popular shows during the like 1950s, if I can remember correctly. Um, I honestly don't even remember the name of the show because I don't give a fuck. um, but this racist ass show. Um, so there were 7 words during this time like you couldn't say on TV, and it was words like motherfucker, um, shit, bitch, cunt, um, 3 other ones. I don't remember what they were. But anyway, but this was based on like if the word was offensive to one's like moral ground, who they are as a human. If the word was offensive, dehumanizing,
And they couldn't use
made
it.
anybody feel uncomfortable, it
Yeah.
couldn't be used on TV.
Okay.
Guess what words were used on TV still? Nigger, spook, coon, spick, any racist slur, any derogatory term was still looked at as ethical in TV because it provided the comedic entertainment for white America, making fun
It
of
was,
other
but it was
races.
towards black people.
Well, not just black people, because you coon spick,
Oh,
um,
oh, so they're just talking about just other races,
oh,
basically.
literally all
Yeah,
races can get it at this point. You know what I mean? Um, but that was the basis of entertainment in America.
yeah,
Um, and obviously, like before, like TV time, it was just about the nigger being the entertainment,
right.
in their nigger stories and things like that, creating the characters of Uncle Remus and stuff. But like we didn't want to get too crazy with the history because there's so much of it, um, to go into depth about. Like we could this episode, if we tried to really break down all the history, bro, this episode would probably end up being like 5 fucking hours if I'm
For
being
real,
honest with you.
bro. Yeah,
It's
there's
OD.
there's so much to talk about on this like topic. It's insane.
It's insane. But before like we transition, um, you know, there's one thing that brought light to me reading this book, and it's this grand quote by the great Paul Mooney.
Oh God.
Brace yourself. So he said, I say the word every morning when I get up. I say it 100 times. I say, nigger, 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 nigger. It makes my teeth white. I'm gonna just
Uh,
let that sit there for a second.
just savage. But that's what I mean. Like, you know, they're casually saying stuff like that. It was clearly, I don't know, it almost seems less racist because now it's like we know that that was racist, right? Like back then they were just like it's what it was, bro. That was life.
Yeah,
Like nigger hair tobacco, like I was telling you they were calling Brazilian nuts nigger toes.
yeah,
And
that's
it's like
crazy.
ha ha, but now that shit isn't funny no. So now
No,
now it's
it's
just way
not.
more racist. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Yeah,
damn, just
yeah,
like the fact that this stuff is still around, like it's crazy.
yeah. That quote is still funny as hell, though. I can't even lie.
Yeah.
But like, but moving into this transition, bro. So like, one thing that was said is like the N-word can function as a term of endearment when exchanged by blacks whose usage reflects a tragicomic sensibility that is aware of black history. So that, to me, as we transition, going into like the niggerverse, nigga era now, right?
Hmm.
Um, with like our generation and even like rap culture and like the 80s and 90s when, the word started to be used in a different form of light. Even, some like comedy shows in like the 70s, things like that, comedians who started to use it
Yeah.
um, to change, the view of the word and things like that. But to what I just said, it relates to people like Dave Chappelle, right? Who say, who believe that like whites, he loves the irony of it because he believes that it depicts the dominance of black culture now, right?
Mm.
And then I sent you those few things about Negus, the
Yeah.
Ethiopian version.
Yeah.
And then that the first minute of Runaway by J. Cole and
Yeah.
how it depicts the word, right? So let's tap into that a little bit on how the word came to be, the NIGGA and the development of that, and the things you have discovered with that too.
Yeah. So I think I really I respect what kind of Dave Chappelle said about it because it is, I mean, it really is part of black culture. I think that you really can't deny that. Um, but he just it does give us power in the sense that I think like, it's not like you're running into racist people every day, and so it's kind of a way for us to say like we overcame this, and
Yeah,
we made it this far, and so this is something that we use amongst ourselves to like signify that. And so that part makes sense to me. Um, but I kind of feel like we've come to a place in time, at least where I live, and I think generally speaking for most of America, where why do we have to demonstrate that anymore? Like I don't think that it's necessary, and ultimately I think it separates us as a group. If I was a white, like I'm mixed, right? So I
yeah,
have a pretty easy time looking at things from both sides. And if I'm a white person and there's this word that I can't say, to me at least, it might make me uncomfortable if I'm hanging out with a bunch of black people that I want to be hanging out with, but they're constantly using this word. And I
yeah,
know, and they know in their head too, like white people know that it's not a good word, right? It is if a black person's using it, I
yeah.
guess. But,
I guess right. Yeah,
and so yeah, man, I mean that's where I'm conflicted because I get both sides of the story. But I guess ultimately I think like it's time to move on from it. I think at this point we're just further separating ourselves by using it. And I just think it's not needed.
that's very. I mean. to that point, um, I I don't I don't disagree with you, bro. I think for me, um, my example would be so growing up, um, in Denver, in Lone Tree, Colorado. Uh, I didn't grow up with black kids, obviously. Grew up with all white kids.
Yeah.
So like when I was hanging out with black kids, they would like, bro, like they dead ass treated me like I wasn't black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but this is like great for this conversation because a lot of that stemmed from me talking proper, me not talking ethnically,
Yeah.
me not dressing a certain way or behaving a certain way in certain environments.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would question me, like, why are you whitewashed? I'm not. I just don't act like you.
Right.
And so when we get into this, so when the revelation, right, of the word nigga starts, it makes me think about that because like I never understood why I was treated differently. We
Mm-hmm.
look the same. Just
Mm-hmm.
because just because my education is different and I talk different doesn't make me any less black than you,
Right.
right?
You know,
And
you
so
know what's crazy, and I hate to interrupt you, but
no, you're fine.
it's like you're not a nigga. And because you're not a nigga,
Yep.
the black people won't, you're whitewashed now, or you're not
Right.
one of them.
Yep.
That's the other problem with it, is
Oh,
it makes us seem like we gotta be a certain way.
exactly. And I think that's been my one of my number one deepest rooted problems with it because I grew up like affected by that in a way.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
at the same time, like my dad is from California, so I grew up listening to gangster rap,
yeah,
all that shit, and West Coast music. And so that's why I never understood it, bro, because like I always had an understanding. Like I grew up in Lone Tree, but I always understood the other side.
yeah,
I was always over there, like so I didn't understand why. And that's like your point, I guess. I never fit the description of what a nigga should be.
yeah,
Because even like when I got to high school, bro, it's the same fucking thing.
right.
And so then like I had to start to tell myself, well, okay, I guess I'm not a nigga then. Like don't call me that then. If you're gonna if you're gonna like put me on the outskirts, like and I'm not saying all black people did this, obviously, because all my best friends were black except for one person.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
person. And who I'm still friends with to this day, still my one of my best friends to this day, but um the mass majority for sure. Like, and I guess I should say like it was more of like really the deep Aurora schools, bro, and like the Denver schools, like the Denver
yeah,
public schools that treated me that way. But
yeah,
fuck all of them, bro.
yeah. And I mean, in those schools like where you and I went, we just had a lot more white people. It was just less black people, and
Yeah.
so that, I mean, if you
Hmm.
went to one of those schools, like they were just immersed in that,
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
almost not even their fault. They just expected every black person to be a certain way.
Yeah, they did. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, you definitely can't blame them at all. Um, but I don't know, man, because can you? Like, I
Well,
guess
there's
this
also
goes,
people like you and I that didn't see that stuff or didn't hold that stuff important, you know.
yeah,
And I can think of other homies too, like D. Like this is why that's part of the reason you guys ended up being my closest friends. Is we never even talked about it. It just seemed like there was this understanding, that like that shit really doesn't matter, and
yeah,
so we were just above it,
that's a good point. That's a very good point. I think, you're right, honestly.
But not everybody sees that for whatever reason,
Yeah,
you know.
that's very true, man. I think too, and I think a problem too is like it puts pressure on like teenagers in that situation Like for me, when white kids are saying it, it's like you're looked at as, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Well, I can start fighting everybody, I guess,
Right. Like,
but
what
I'd
am I
rather not.
supposed to do?
Yeah, like I'd rather not. I'd rather just kind of let it go.
Right.
Honestly, like to me, because like I can sit there and be like, you're ignorant, and not be affected because I just know you're ignorant. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
feel like, and I feel like that um is based on the history of what we've seen with all the violence, that every black person immediately feels like if they hear a white person say it, it's go time.
Yeah. It's
Why can't we look at them and
hands.
be like, yo, no, just
Yeah.
don't. Just
Right.
don't.
Right.
And yeah, if they keep saying it after that, okay, we weigh our options now.
Right. You might have a problem.
We will have a big problem. If you keep saying it after I
Right.
tell you not to, then we're gonna have a problem.
Right.
But like off rip, one time, come on, like we have to be better than that, because that always goes back to the point of like that's who they want us to be, because that's who the nigger is. The
Yeah.
nigger is that reaction.
Yeah.
So you're proving the point
Yep.
by them saying it and you reacting that way. Yep, you're a nigger, just like
Proving
I
the
thought.
point. You're letting it take your power away.
Yep,
No.
all of it. Your
Yep.
peace,
Yep.
your control, all of it.
And you shouldn't do that with anything. So
Mm-mm.
why would you do that, with someone calling you that?
It makes no sense, bro. And like a point that I want to read you, that I think I may have read this to you before. Um, but this talks about like distinguishing the difference between um public and private speech, right?
Mm,
So, um, how do you feel about that? So, like in this book, it's basically saying that we can distinguish the basis of public versus private speech. So,
mm,
in public, you don't say it, and this is in terms of like white people, right?
yeah.
So, in public, you don't say it. You treat everybody with respect.
Hmm.
You're commendable, whatever. But behind closed doors, you aren't afraid to drop the N word, to use it in a derogatory term to describe a black person. But this book is basically saying, and I'm not going to get into all the examples, but like these are all based on like presidents, which so I think
Okay.
is very extreme for
Yeah.
an example because it doesn't relate to the average person. But
Yeah.
like one example is like Abraham Lincoln reportedly was fond of telling nigger jokes in private. In public, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Okay, yeah. Lyndon Johnson frequently spoke of niggers in private conversations. In public, he presided over civil rights legislation that helped transform the daily lives of black Americans.
Mm.
So it's like, okay, but I remember when I first said this to you, I want you to talk about this because you said, well, how do we know that they just didn't have a motive to the public eye and the private was who they really were?
Yeah.
Um, so I get into that for me.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it a little more, and because the example is with presidents, again, it's kind of a bad example, but
Yeah,
in that case, I mean, I felt like we couldn't really know unless we were there in the room with them. And I only say that because, like, I'll joke about certain things, but I don't actually feel that way.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can make a joke about something, but I don't actually feel that way.
Yeah,
So I can see where they're coming from. I think it's a little bit extreme. Like, why would you be joking about that? Like that's extreme. Like, bro, you're about to set these people free. You know what I'm saying? But now you're making jokes about it. Like, that's just extreme. So I get it, but yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. That seems a little extreme, especially if you're the president.
yeah. It's a little wild, but like, how
Yeah.
does that make you feel about the average person, though?
Right. So I
Public
mean, the
versus
average
private.
person, look, I think if you're at home with your friends, if I'm chilling with you and I'm, what's up, my nigga? Like it doesn't really, to me, like, I guess
Hmm.
now that I thought about it more, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
But like, why beyond that, like, definitely in public and just around other people, like, I don't see the point in it, I guess. Just
I
because,
don't.
there's certain things that I think there's definitely certain things I think most people can agree that you'll say in the privacy of your home around the people that you love, whether
Of
you
course.
mean it or not, that you
Yeah.
wouldn't say out in public.
Yeah,
And it,
for
it
sure.
doesn't have to just be about, the N word. Like, there's plenty of things.
Yeah, definitely. But I still think that shows your true character, regardless.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Because I think it's the same thing, bro, as how they say alcoholic truths. Those aren't lies. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
how you feel when you're drunk, like, that's how you feel. I
feel.
feel like
Yeah.
it's the same thing with public versus private. You can look me dead in my face and we can be cool. But if you go home and, like, you're making nigger jokes,
Right.
are, is our, whether we're just acquaintances, whatever, like, it's not genuine. It's not authentic. You're putting
Yeah.
on a mask to show up and be in this room with me. I'm
Yeah.
not masking myself to show up here. I understand that as a black man, I have to carry myself a certain type of way in this space, but I'm
Yeah.
still gonna remain me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's where it lies. I feel like white people have that ability to really just create this whole facade about themselves because I there's a part of me that believes white people really don't want to be looked at as racist due to the racist history they've had,
Hmm.
but I also feel like they ignore it, and that's one of the biggest problems behind how their children arrive in society with no understanding of why they shouldn't be saying this word. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah,
So
because they do just ignore it, and they need to be educated.
yeah, they do. And like to your point, like Most Def, the Mr. Nigga, um, he says, um, the whites who refrain from public utterances voice the suspicion, um, sorry, whites who refrain from public utterances of the N-word will say it out loud again when they deal with their closest associates and friends. So I mean that kind of like really sums up that whole picture. Um, but I don't know. I just don't believe public behavior is any different than private behavior. I really don't. Like, you're either going to choose to be unapologetically yourself every day or you're not.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
I don't think white people should hide from it. Like, bro, if you feel like you want to be a race, like you want to say that word on a daily basis, if that's how you feel, you should do that.
And
Own
just
it.
say it.
Be a
Because
racist.
no one's gonna fuck with you.
No, just
No.
do it. Like
Go ahead.
that's the world we live in anyway.
It is.
Like fuck. Everybody, bro, mad sensitive. But like, bro, still like moving into, hip hop culture and everything, and how this word was used over time. So obviously, you have groups like NWA, and so they decided to kind of make the word really align with like their gangster lifestyle and ideology.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's kind of where the problem starts
For
with
sure.
how a nigga is looked at today.
Today. Yeah.
Um, because it, it really relates to the whole ideology of like, again, a nigga is a drug dealer, doesn't really care about another black person, is for himself, is selfish, degrades women, um, loves to smoke weed,
Yeah.
doesn't abide by law. Um, so now that like this picture is painted, right? And that's kind of like what a real nigga becomes.
I would say that is pretty much what to me that it means today.
Yeah,
Like when the word nigga to me is like a gangster, pretty much.
yeah, I wouldn't disagree with
You
you.
know, just
I,
generally, like just generally speaking.
yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. Um, and then, like there are people who've tried to put a positive spin on it in rap, like Tupac, for example. Like he tried to say that in order to obviously transform the word, he was like, nigga stands for never ignorant in goals getting accomplished. So like he tries to basically use it as an acronym now.
Yeah, yeah,
That this is what nigga can mean, and this is how we should value it and stand for it,
yeah,
stand behind it. And I think it's important that through history we have had moguls like that try to take the narrative and
change it.
completely change it and reframe it to what it means for us. So like I sent you about Kendrick, for example. Um,
Yeah.
what did you think about that?
I mean, I thought it was. I mean, it's great that they're trying to put like he's trying to put that out there. I mean, same with like Tupac and everything. I mean, I guess what I'm thinking right now is like, why didn't that stick? Why is it so hard to put that word in a good light, but it's so easy to put it in a bad one?
Yeah, so to be clear, what I've sent Sam, this is at the end of I by Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
And it's this little, what would you call it? Like I don't know, little freestyle joint, whatever, at the
Yeah,
end of the
it's
song.
yeah, it's kind of it's really like a poem kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, you want to go ahead and explain it?
Yeah, so what I got from it is he's just talking about the word negus and
Hmm.
what it means and how it means like royalty. I forget where it came from, but it just means royalty and it's just a much more positive, you know, like light on the word, I guess.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so the word stems, like you said, from Ethiopia, Negus. And it's also a little bit history on that. Um, is because like Ethiopians were considered like the original like kings of like blacks. They were never slaves.
Mm.
So that's where he's taking that from. But that's like a completely different term because
Yeah,
we're changing the spelling now, right?
yeah,
So we really can't relate that to one another. But through history, bro, like there's been so many points like in rap where like even Shorty L and like Benny Siegel, like the word nigga is always used to also ridicule other black people. Like we talked about this before, like colored people time.
right.
Like what? Why why can't people just be late? What?
Yeah,
Like, and this is another thing that stems from history. Like, why is it? Oh, you're on nigga time.
right.
What? Why am I on nigga time?
Like,
What
right,
is?
yeah, bro. Well,
What is that, bro? I didn't even. What is that? Where does that come from?
I have
Was
no
there like a? Was there a function in the what when blacks were first free?
idea. Yeah, bro.
And there was a little function, bro, and nigga showed up 30, 40 late. And
One
I don't even
one
know.
black dude showed up.
One black dude showed up late once, and
And that
America said, "Oh, You niggas.
Right. Y'all niggas are always late.
Y'all niggas are always late. Bro, I was late one time. No, no. You niggas have a tendency to not show up on time.
Bro, you know what one gets me?
What?
Uh Nigga lip.
Oh God.
You need a nigga lip
Bro, but fuck. That comes from the jigaboo thing though.
Yeah,
That's where
yeah,
that comes from. But
for
no,
sure.
I feel you. I feel you. But like another point that Kendrick makes too in that little like poem part is um how he's like I'll never say the phrase fuck niggas because think about what you're saying. Fuck niggas, right?
Yeah,
So it's like little bro, there's always these little moments I feel like that are like empowering to the word. Um that can't be ignored.
yeah,
And so I really understand like the fine line of those who don't agree with it, but those who are now trying to turn it into a word of endearment. Like
yeah.
like J. Cole, for example, like what I sent you by J. Cole. Um in Runaway, how he's like, um I'm gonna just go ahead and run this verse real quick.
Yeah.
Uh so he's like, love my girl, but I told her straight up, don't wait up. Stumble home late, I drunk, we fucked and made up. You still living free as a bird, but now I'm laid up. Feeling like a nigga got handcuffs on. How the fuck did my life become a damn love song? She ride for a nigga and she stand up for him. But a nigga wanna be a nigga. Be a nigga. Ride through the streets with freaks and real niggas. She never understand what it's like to be a man, knowing when you look inside yourself you see a nigga. Bro, heavy,
That's
right? Like
real.
when you think so like in terms of this topic, then you hear that.
Yeah. I think he's pretty much saying like, like I'm feeling like I want to be this way, but society is telling me I'm supposed to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like what do I do?
Yeah. It's
Like I'm a
like,
nigga, this is how I'm supposed to be.
yeah. Like I see myself as bigger than,
Yeah.
but internally, my insides are you're a nigga.
Yeah.
Because like you said, society is
That's
telling
what
you that's what
society's
you
saying.
are.
Yeah.
Like I want to ride around in the streets late night with the thotties doing whatever. Like I want to be a nigga. I don't want to be responsible. I don't
Yeah.
want to be accountable. I don't want to serve like loyalty. You know what I mean? It's like all those little things can be taken from that verse. Like it speaks volume. So
It does. That's a crazy verse. And for some reason it's almost, especially nowadays, I feel like it's almost glorified, right? Like
yeah,
like we're talking about how being a nigga is technically a bad thing, like it has such a bad connotation, but it's glorified
yeah,
by niggas, by the people that you're surrounding yourself with,
yep.
you know?
And that's bro. That's the scariest part about it is that I f- I feel like it's hard for like our generation to try to separate this and have this understanding of the depths of the word
Hmm.
and really look at it for themselves of what it means instead of just growing up in the culture and it becomes part of our terminology,
Right.
right? Because I feel like that happened for both of us. For
Yeah.
example, like we
Yeah.
just we never distinguishedly made the choice if we're going to say it or not based on what we know about the word. Oh, it's used in society now amongst ourselves. Okay, that's fine with me.
So we just did it.
So we just did it.
Yeah.
But now I look at it, now I look at it as it's tough for me to really feel like it is endearing.
Yeah.
Because like what we were talking about in terms of like ridiculing, it's also used as like, when a black person does something publicly, right? Other black people may look at him and be like, this nigga.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nigga shit.
Yeah.
Like, don't put that on me. That's nigga shit, bro. Like, I wouldn't do that. Constant negativity.
Constant.
And I feel like there's more negativity behind the endearment. And I feel like the endearment only lies in the greeting,
Yeah.
right?
Pretty much. Pretty much. And
And
beyond that, it's hard to find for me.
yeah. And 'cause me and you have, both of us have never really been people to really say nigga a lot. I've had my moments.
Right. Same.
But sometimes, like, I've noticed that, like, if I'm speaking, like, passionately about something, kind of just comes out.
It'll
Like,
just come out.
yeah, bro, I'll just be like, man. And most of the time, bro, like, it's when I talk about black people. So it's fucked up. Because,
Yeah.
like, I'll really be like, niggas, bro, like, niggas
Yeah.
don't get it. They don't get it. And I know when I say niggas don't get it, I'm talking about a specific group of people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I know I'm not talking about the masses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even starting to pay attention to those little things for myself, bro. I'm just like, sheesh.
Yeah.
It's
But that's why it's important that we're talking about this, man, because I can guarantee you that most black people probably have not done this much research on it, So they just have no, they don't know any better. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
they don't.
Yeah.
And that's why we can't knock the culture for what
Right.
it became.
Right.
Because all they were trying to do was make the most out of a word that still existed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Um,
true.
and use it to their advantage. Like, and bro, this is crazy. I want to read this to you. So, um, there's this guy, his name is Sylvester, and he wrote an essay about like this trip he had to Africa, right?
Yeah.
And he was riding a bike in Africa and he came across this clothing store in Africa and it's called Nigger. It's the name of the store.
Okay.
And he asked them why it was called Nigger. And he said one of them um, said, P. Diddy, New York City, we are the niggers. Like that was his response as to why they called the store that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were looking at, like, they're seeing the word nigger as like nigga, basically, but they don't understand the
The
difference,
difference.
right? So it says, like, he was deeply disturbed by the incident. He wrote an essay about it. It was like, I rode over 12,000 miles on 2 continents through 15 states and 13 countries and broke 2 bikes in the process to get to a store in Africa called Niggers. And then he wrote like um he went to blame himself and other African Americans who have casually allowed the N-word to enter everyday discourse. I was wrong, we are wrong, he contended. Uh, there is no justification for an infraction of this magnitude. The word and the sentiment behind it are flat out wrong. We have degenerated and degraded ourselves to the point that our backwards mindset has spread like a cancer and infected our source, our brothers, our sisters, and our motherland. And to me, that is probably one of the realest fucking things I've ever heard about
Yeah.
the use of this word.
That's,
Ever. Ever.
I mean, that, yeah, bro, that just goes to show perfectly what has happened.
Backwards mindset.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
it
like the
literally went
takeaway.
backwards, bro.
Literally.
You just took the N word,
Mm-hmm.
made it racist, which it wasn't in the first place, and then took it back to Africa. Like, God dang.
Bro, it's crazy. But that was like one of the realest things ever because that, bro, like backwards mindset spreads like a cancer
Yeah.
and infected our source.
Yeah. It's
That's
true.
what everybody is missing in society today.
Yeah.
It's the source because the mindset now, but like I don't know, like you just never and like to your point, you've talked about this. You can bring it like go into depth about it more, but like the use of the word based um on what was it?
So yeah, so they basically did a study. So I just read one study. It was long as hell. But it talked about like the usage of the N word
Mm-hmm.
amongst different demographics. So it took account for like gender, it took account income, it took account like where the people live, what what part of the country they live.
Mm-hmm.
But what was most, I'll say, concerning to me was, and I think the reason I think this is so important, the more that I've thought about it, is
Mm-hmm.
because I think most people generally, hear people say, "I don't care what other people think of me," right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's generally true. I think most people, to a certain extent, care about what other people think, right? Because we need to get jobs, right?
Yeah,
We need to
exactly.
have friends, so
Mm-hmm.
you can't do that if you don't care about what other people think you. Um, and so where I'm going with this is when they were looking at the income, the they basically asked a bunch of black people, how much do you use the N word yourself? Do the people around you use it frequently? And the higher the income went up, the
Mm-hmm.
reports of using the word went down. So people who made $50,000 a year or more reported using the word hardly ever or never,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
people around them didn't use it either. And then as the income level went down, the reports of using the word went up. And to me, that just speaks volumes. It
Yeah.
speaks volumes about who you surround yourself with and how the people that you surround yourself with can impact your future, and the words that you use, what that makes other people think of you, and ultimately how those people react towards you and decide to interact with you. you know
Right.
it's just one word.
Yeah.
It's one word that can change how people see you completely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, this ties into everything comes back full circle, right? So this again ties back into um rap culture
Yeah.
because majority of the rappers, right, come from the poverty. They come from the high end level of the high end usage of nigga.
Yeah.
That's where they grew up, right? And so that also frames the definition of nigga for the culture
Yeah.
as
100%.
well, for
Yeah.
that culture, right? And the reason why I wanted you to bring that up is because I was just thinking about how, like, in those rooms where, like, successful black people, they, you never see another successful black person call another successful black person nigga.
You
You just
don't.
don't see it.
You know.
And I guess maybe that might be part of the private and public speech part,
Yeah,
because
man.
in private, they might be, in the backyard, with a couple of glasses doing whatever, you know what
Just
I mean?
dropping M
Yeah,
bombs.
like, oh, nigga, that,
Yeah.
bro, they might. Like, for real, though.
Yeah.
They really might. And so, but still, they're able to distinguish the difference. So I
Yeah.
think it's a double standard, but I feel like it's still different for white and black.
Yeah.
Just kind of like with everything.
But
Um,
I would still bet you that even in their in privacy, they probably don't say it that much,
yeah,
if I had to guess.
I would definitely say the same. And like one little thing I also wanted to relate to it from the book is like, so he's like, my concern with the public square, where I believe the N-word and other profane expressions have no rightful place. Out in public is where we depend on polite speech, in the words of the linguist Edward Sapir, to act as a socializing and uniforming force. In a public space, say on a subway train, I should not expect my fellow commuters permission to assault their ears with nigger laden speech any more than I should expect their acceptance of my shouting into a cell phone or scrawling obscenities on the windows and seats. But my obligations to other regarding civility and decency end at my doorstep.
Hmm.
So, I mean, bro, he's fuck, you know? Like he's right. Because in these public spaces, and this goes to your point, like we talked about this before, like in high school at Creek, in the quad, like that's where all of us were. All the black kids at Creek, right? And
Yeah.
to your point, like there's a white kid standing outside looking in the quad, and all he hears is nigga, 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 nigga,
Right.
right? And but it's like, how uncomfortable can that make somebody,
Yeah. Like it
right?
wasn't making us uncomfortable, but I can guarantee you. I mean, maybe it's not making them uncomfortable, but they're not going to come up and talk to us,
No.
you know?
Yeah, it now it becomes like an exclusion thing because it's like, well, if that white kid has some notion of like this is not a good word, to your point, they're not gonna want to talk to us because this is all they hear.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we immersed ourselves inside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's where the forever struggle for equality is going to come from because like when you have groups in schools and stuff, um, like student unions and colleges and things like that, bro, they're
Yeah.
all based on one ethnicity,
Yeah.
trying to solve problems for that ethnicity. You can't solve problems for your ethnicity without other races being involved. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's just
It's all
the
inclusive.
hard truth.
Yeah.
So, as
I
black
agree.
people, we also have to get out of that. We, I think there's a lot of flaws, bro, to black culture, to be honest. And I do blame history. I don't necessarily just blame us,
Yeah.
but, bro, like even like with police brutality, it's wrong, but it's not our biggest issue. And the
Bro,
fact that we sit here and look at white cops as a bigger issue than black on black crime.
it's not. Bro, and I'll tell you why. I'm glad you brought this up because this is to me one of the biggest reasons that the N-word is a problem. So all this police brutality, right? You hear white cops shooting black people. I ultimately I don't think that all of them are racist. Sure, like the dude that choked out George Floyd, had his knee. That dude's racist as hell.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. There's instances, but put yourself in a cop's shoes, right? You're a black male. If you pulled over a black male, even though you're black, would you not still be like a little bit like cautious as
I
opposed to
mean,
pulling over a white person? And it's not because you're racist, bro. It's just like if you were in the hood and you pulled over a black person, I don't care what race you are, because of the stigma and what we've been talking about this whole time, the image around nigga and black people, you in your head are automatically gonna have this drawed back or heightened sense of I need to be on my toes simply because the person is black, whether you're racist or not. I mean, and I can honestly say, like, bro, I'm not racist. I can honestly say, like,
obviously,
if
yeah.
I was a cop, let's take black people out of it. If I pulled over a Hispanic person who is all tatted up, tats all over their neck, I'm not racist, but I am gonna be a little bit more on edge because of the image that that person has chosen to portray.
Right, because you're prejudiced. And you're living inside the bases created like on imagery.
Yes,
I understand that.
yes,
But that naturally creates a prejudice though.
yeah,
And
but
that's not
that's what I'm saying.
necessarily.
The problem is,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I agree with you 1000%. Because like when I'm sitting here thinking about it and like the way that you were saying it, putting myself in the cop's shoes, right? I'm in the hood, pull over a nigga. I can't,
yeah,
yeah, bro.
bro,
Like I can't, I
and you,
can't say, I can't say that in the back in my mind, I wouldn't think there's a possibility something might go wrong here.
And look, my only point is this. My only point is that bl- like black people, we're doing it to ourselves. Like if we're rapping about, if this shit is in all our music, niggas killing and doing drugs, and like we're doing it to ourselves. So to now go and be like, oh, this dude is all just must be racist, like, bro, that's not right. How can
It's
you
not
say that when you're openly portraying yourself as someone who, and this is very generally speaking, but
right.
we're portraying ourselves as people who embody killing people and doing drugs and partying, and
Yeah.
it's like we're setting ourselves back. It's just a disadvantage.
Yeah, we are. We do it to ourselves for sure. But I mean, it still doesn't give cops the right to react
It doesn't.
as in prompt as they do
Yeah, I agree with that.
to pull the trigger. That doesn't give them the right to do that though.
Not at all.
But and that I think that's like the fine line and gray area of this issue is just to your point, not all of them are racist, but they also shouldn't be so impromptu to pull just because of that. Even if they're not racist, but they have the prejudice because of the environment they're in and things like that. Okay, I get it. That still does not give you the right to assume that this
It
man is
doesn't.
going to pull a weapon and so you shoot and kill. That
No.
doesn't give you the right to assume this man is going to get violent with you. You can have these feelings inside of you and not react that way. It's
Yeah,
control, bro.
it
And
is.
that's a lack of self-control.
It is.
Honestly, I
And
feel that's what it
they
comes down
need
to
to
for
have
me.
that. Like they need to be better trained. You know what I'm saying? They can't let that get to them. You're 100% right. But I also think that we should be doing everything that we can to avoid that,
I agree.
as black people, right?
I agree.
And it starts with taking this negative connotation off the word. To me, like as long as this word's around and we're using it, how can we get rid of that? How can
We
we
can.
get rid of that if we
We're always going to be placed in a inferior way, bro. We're never gonna, as long as nigga is around, no matter in what form it's used in or who thinks what about it, it's forever going to keep black people down.
I agree, dude.
Forever.
I agree. Yeah.
Because white people will always have a reason to go back to this word
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't let us individualize ourselves.
at all.
You know what I mean? It automatically like puts us all on the same level.
Yeah. Like when white people, like when, you know, the derogatory terms for white people, like became a thing. Um, this wasn't till like the late 1900s, but like 1970s and shit. But like honky and like cracker, shit like that. Like, bro, that has no distinguishing harm
Right.
to white people. It's something that like we created to almost like out of pity, bro. Like,
Right.
oh, you want to call us niggers? We're gonna call you a cracker.
Right. And they're
You're
like,
white as
okay,
shit.
yeah.
Okay. Bro, you like that has no effect on white culture.
No.
You could call a white person, you could walk into a room and bro, like a white person could be in a room full of black people and get called a cracker and then
They'd be like,
laugh
all
it
right.
off. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
They
why
just
are you
laugh.
even calling me that? Like, bro, that's stupid.
Right.
A black person in a room full of white people gets called a nigger.
Yeah. It's like,
It's gonna be a bad day for that
yeah.
room.
Yeah.
Not saying the black person might not make it out, but it's gonna be a bad day for everybody for sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because even if they're saying it in a joking manner, it's not funny.
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah, so
And I think it's just because
it,
of the history, like you said, like honky and cracker. There's nothing behind it at all.
nothing,
It's just
nothing at
like it's
all.
just a word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a meaningless fucking word. And bro, like the bro, like what we said, the history of this word is so strong And even what the little I explained today, like if we needed to do a part two on this, we could. But like even the little I explained just about how white people turned nigger into an entire commodity, that was the setup, bro, for our complete demise
Yeah,
in
without a doubt.
America.
Without a doubt.
Once it became a commodity, it was over.
Yeah,
That's literally what I understand it. Once it
yeah,
became a commodity, we had no chance. If that may have not happened, we may have been able to actually turn over the word,
yeah.
right?
Like get rid of it or something.
Or something. But now
Yeah,
we're stuck with it. So there are people on the left side trying to have creative ways for us to accept it as endearment. Then there are other people on this side who are like, no, this is the history. It's forever going to mean this to our culture.
right.
We can't say it. So it's tough, bro. But I think I know that I stand on this word is definitely forever um going to hinder the true equality and
Yeah,
progression that we desire
yeah.
in America.
Me too. I think, like you said, like it's a broad spectrum,
Yeah,
and it's hard to pick a side. But I definitely think I lean more towards that side too. You
I
know?
do too. Because even like I was watching like some rap interviews yesterday, and just like how much they use the word nigga, bro, it's like it's so embodied in vocabulary. It's like it's bro, like it's become such a just like a descriptive like adjective.
Yeah,
I don't it's just crazy to me, honestly. Like sometimes it feels like people are just saying nigga in a sentence just
just
to
to
say
fill
it.
the space, bro.
Sometimes it doesn't even make sense for the sentence.
Right.
Like Brent
It's
Fayez,
like
for example, like bro, like I love Brent Fayez. He's one of my favorite artists. Like if you know me, you know that for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Like he's been one of my favorite artists for years, and I was watching his Rap Radar interview. Bro, he probably said nigga in the full, it was like a 50-minute interview. He probably said nigga over 100 times.
yeah.
And it's just like, why?
What?
Why
Yeah.
can't you just, bro, just talk? Like I have nothing against him as a person. That's not why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Because you know, even a average black person will do that. I'm just saying publicly,
Yeah.
him in the seat he is, that's a perfect example because every sentence he forms, nigga has a different context behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that's another issue too. Like we don't have to get into it. Like, you know, we're running up on an hour and a half. This conversation was crazy today.
Yeah.
But but I think that's another problem too, is like when you really sit down and kind of look at when people are using it, every time nigga is used, it has a different context behind it.
It does. It does. Yeah.
But we can't always say that it's more times than not, it's negative than positive for sure though.
Yeah.
So that's still the issue.
Yeah. That
That's
for sure, man. Yeah, it's a broad topic, dude. We should do a part two of this at some point. We
yeah,
should
some
try to get a third person on here. All reason I say this is like, at least for me, and I think you're kind of similar. Like when I was growing up, yes, I used the word and I used it a lot, but for me, I only used it to try and fit in. I didn't necessarily feel like, like this is part of who I am,
I
you know.
bro, I feel you. I
So I
feel
think
you.
I think it'd be cool to have someone who has more of that perspective. Like because I do
Like
believe some people use it in the sense like it's just who I am, it's ingrained in me, you know.
yeah, bro, I like that.
So I think it'd be
We'll find
interesting.
that person.
Yeah,
We will
yeah.
find that person. I'm sure we already know that person, to be
Oh, I
honest with
guarantee.
you.
I was thinking of a couple people
Me
already.
too, bro. I'm thinking of a couple niggas.
Right.
Thinking of a
Hell
couple
yeah.
niggas right now.
Yeah.
I love them. I love them
Hell
to
yeah,
death.
bro. Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, bro, we'll run that for sure. But um, appreciate the time today, y'all. I hope y'all enjoy this conversation. Leave all the comments, man. Open up the dialogue. We're here
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
We don't run from conversation. We don't run from debate.
for real. And
Um,
if you guys are listening to this, thank you. We appreciate it. You know, this is
Appreciate it wholeheartedly.
one of many. So
One of many. We hope you enjoy the journey and, see our progression. This is the first of many. Um, Again, I'm Jalen Charles. That's my
Sam
guy, Sam
Stovall.
Stove. And this is Old Head, Young Shoulders.
Yeah,
Peace out.
appreciate you.